Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Scale 360 info session. My name is Abby Davidson, and I am Andy's Director of Research and Impact. And the Scale 360 program has been a labor of love and a long time in the making for Andy, so we are thrilled to be able to share about the program and announce the first program launch on this webinar. So the agenda for today is 4 parts. What is Scale? Discussing our sort of journey towards Scale 360 by hosting introductory Scale workshops over the past couple years, discussing what the program will actually entail, and then thinking through how you can get involved. So what is Scale? So as some background, when we think about business development services, you know, at their core, this is a way to help small and growing businesses identify their constraints and develop solutions, right? So we see it delivered in a lot of different formats of non-financial support that usually includes a combination of training, mentoring, consulting, networking, coaching, things like that. And oftentimes it's offered by incubators, accelerators, technical assistance programs, sometimes in various forms by investors and funders, et cetera. But essentially, it's this term that captures these programs that offer non-financial support. And there's been a lot of research done over the past 10 years or so to understand how effective these mechanisms are to actually support small and growing business growth. So 2 of these efforts were led by Andy. So the first on the left being our Small and Growing Business Evidence Fund in partnership with the International Growth Center at the London School of Economics. This has been a fund to support rigorous academic research to better understand SGBs and the best ways to support their growth. And then also our Global Accelerator Learning Initiative, which was a partnership with Emory University that lasted nearly 10 years to understand what is acceleration effective, and in the cases where it is effective, what makes it effective. So Andy has contributed a lot of research to the field, and we've, there's many insights to dig into, but really at the core, what we found is that business development support can be a highly effective way of encouraging SGB growth. But a lot of programs, when you actually look at the data, are not seeing much improvement among supported entrepreneurs. And this can be for a combination of factors, but it does seem that many BDS programs are largely unaware of the best practices that have been developed over the past decade. And so this scale effort is really an attempt to synthesize all of the evidence to package evidence-backed best practices for the sector. And this was actually developed by the Argydius Foundation. So it took into account research such as the led by Andy, but then also they did a deep dive assessment of the BDS programs that they fund to see which were more effective and what were the common characteristics among those that were more effective. And so they packaged all of these learnings together into this acronym SCALE. And so I will show just a brief introductory video from the Argydius Foundation explaining SCALE, and then we'll go into more detail.
In 2013, Argydius set out on a journey to understand how enterprises are best supported to grow and create employment. The aim was to enable business development support, BDS organizations, and their funders to improve the effectiveness of support to enterprises by implementing what works. During this time, we have funded a variety of business development support organizations to deliver services such as coaching, consulting, networking, and training to thousands of enterprises of varying sizes, ages, and types. Using a data-driven approach, we have tracked the performance of enterprises that have accessed support from the 50+ organizations we fund and undertake internal and external evaluations to understand if, how, and why support changes performance. Some organizations have been highly effective at supporting enterprise growth and employment creation, high performers. whereas some haven't, low performers. This picture is repeated across other publicly available datasets and the evidence from a growing number of robust academic studies in this field. So what is it that distinguishes the high performers from the low performers? These datasets, the evidence from the literature and our knowledge and experience have converged around 5 key distinguishing features, the topics of this video series. What's more, the old saying, it's not what you do, it's the way you do it, rings true through each of them. Whether you support enterprises or fund those that do, you should think about how these might be applied to your work to scale effective enterprise development.
So just reflecting on the video that you just saw, I think it gives a good background of how the scale best practices were developed. And a couple things I want to point out are that this is not a prescriptive way of how you should run a BDS program, right? They don't say your program should be 3 months long, it should have 20 entrepreneurs, it should have this many of in-person sessions, nothing like that. It really does lend itself to a broad array of BDS programs in, many shapes and sizes. It's more so about the deeper elements of what makes for a successful program. So I'll walk you through really quickly the acronym since it didn't go into too much detail in the video. But S stands for selecting the right enterprises. That seems very simple at face value, but this is actually something we saw again and again in the Global Accelerator Learning Initiative research, where programs that were not targeted to, that were not focused and informed on how their specific set of services would best serve a certain segment of entrepreneurs, there is a huge missed opportunity there. And if entrepreneurs that actually are ripe for growth in the way that you intend to deliver it are matched with your program, that alone it can be a difficult thing to do, but it's an essential thing to do to see success. C stands for charging entrepreneurs for participation. This one can be a little bit challenging in various ecosystems and for different BDS providers because not all programs are allowed to charge based on who their funder is or for other reasons cannot charge. But I want us to think a little bit more broadly about this and maybe also think of the C as the term commitment because charging entrepreneurs is very much a way to ensure buy-in. So to avoid this issue of entrepreneurs program hopping or sort of just, being half in, half out of the program, the goal is to find ways to ensure full commitment by the entrepreneurs that have signed up for your program and to also create some form of like exclusivity. Like if they make it in or they pay this amount or whatever it is, they know that they're now part of this cohort that they need to be committed to. So that's C. For A, that is address problems. We learn best by problem solving. There's some very clear research that has been done on how curriculum-based, training for entrepreneurs is actually not really effective. The entrepreneurs may learn something, but whether they'll actually turn that into action and make changes to their business, very little evidence has been seen that that's effective. And so the message behind A is really how do you use the time with your entrepreneurs to get in there in the weeds with them in their business and address their problems and make changes together rather than, teaching and then assuming they'll make the change themselves on their own. So sort of thinking about how to best use your time together. L is for learning by evaluating enterprise performance. And so this is really about the monitoring and evaluation and how your program is data driven, not just in how it reports its results, but then also how it continually improves based on what you learn from those results. And then E is lead by example. So making sure that your organization has implemented best practices itself so that you can then encourage entrepreneurs to do the same. So this is really about your governance structure, your funding structure, et cetera, and what some of the best practices are around there. So as you can see, it's very, it's it's broad and detailed at the same time, but it's applicable to so many different types of programs, which is why we feel really excited about it and its potential to serve the ANDE membership and beyond. So about our past with Scale, just to sort of show you how we got to the Scale 360 program. In 2023, we actually formed a partnership with the Argadius Foundation to disseminate the Scale lessons via these introductory workshops. We offered these workshops to more than 350 participants in 14 countries around the world, and they were really well received, to be honest. So when we did a follow-up survey, more than 80% of participants said that from what they learned, they were likely to apply the scale lessons to their work. But we heard over and again, we want more in-depth guidance, more opportunities to learn from our peers, and tips on how to practically apply these lessons. Because especially when you say, oh, you need to select the right entrepreneurs, the question then is like, okay, well, what are the existing, ways of doing this? Can I hear someone who's learned these lessons and implemented a selection process that's highly effective so I can think about how that applies to my program? Questions like that. So that helped us think through what we might want to offer that's more in depth. So, uh, you know, this is what brought us to develop Scale 360, which is the name of our more in-depth program that we are now offering to BDS providers in at least 10 countries in 2025. And the 360 part is really meant to reflect that you're learning from experts, you are self-reflecting, and then you are also learning from your peers. So it's sort of a 360 view on best practices. So you can think about the Scale 360 program as an immersive learning journey, which will provide, detailed guidance around the scale principles. And it's very much designed in collaboration with local ANDE members and partners wherever the program is that we're offering. The structure will be a combination of in-person and virtual sessions. And depending on the location, anywhere between 3 and 7 sessions in total, spanning approximately 2 months. This will differ by location. That's why you see, that big range of 3 to 7. Some locations will opt to have, longer engagements, like maybe a full day engagement 2 to 3 times, and some will have shorter engagements and more virtual for, but have more of those actual sessions. But I guess the takeaway here is it's enough for you to really learn and engage with your peers. It's not so much that you need to take time away from your program to participate, right? This isn't like an accelerator program for entrepreneurs where they need to, give hours and hours and hours to this experience. We want it to be the right mix of enough time and space to really apply these lessons to your program, but also, enough that you can continue to run your program or whatever you need to do in the day-to-day. So the final thing is this has this flipped classroom model, right? So we want to apply the A of Scale to our program by making sure that the time you spend with us is very much focused on those practical insights, working through challenges, etc. So the flipped classroom model means that if there is any pre-reading that you need to do, that happens before the actual engagement. So instead of learning in class and then going home and doing homework, it's flipped around where you prepare yourself with the knowledge in advance, and then you come to the session to actually learn how you can make changes. A little more about what participants can expect. We are developing a benchmarking survey and report. So Argadius developed a self-assessment tool where it actually goes into quite a bit of detail under each of the letters of the SCALE acronym to assess to what extent you are adhering to those best practices. And our goal is to take it one step further by using that assessment to then help you benchmark your own practices against your peers. So the goal is that you will receive a sort of status report of where you stand in terms of how much you've adopted the SCALE principles, and it'll be benchmarked against an aggregated, anonymized benchmark of your fellow participants. And so that'll just give you an idea going into the program of what you might want to focus on, where it's clear that your peers are doing things differently. It's really just meant to make the program most effective for you. In-depth workshops, really anchored on experts. These are oftentimes your peers, but peers that have like put a lot of time and energy into mastering one of the scale letters. And then facilitated peer mentoring. So a huge part of this is just being able to work through these things with your peers. So who should participate in Scale 360? It is specifically designed for business development support programs. So if you're unsure if you fit in that category, feel free to reach out to us and ask what we think. But if you are providing non-financial services to entrepreneurs in a distinct program, then you probably are a good fit. So accelerators, incubators, anything that sort of falls in between those or maybe outside those lines, but is similar in nature to wanting to impart knowledge in order to see business growth, that is probably a good fit for this program. And we would love to see a combination of established programs that maybe have been running for 10 years, but they just want to take a step back and say, okay, we've been running for a long time, but are we actually applying best practices based on the most up-to-date evidence base? But we would also love to see new programs participating who are maybe just now building out their programs and they want to do it based on evidence, right? That's really an exciting opportunity. So we will accept up to 2 participants from selected organizations. And it's very important that these 2 participants are the same 2 participants that come throughout the program. Or at least that one of them is always consistent, right? We want to make sure that the knowledge isn't too fragmented within your organization, but that there is at least one person who was attending all the sessions and can have the full picture. And one of these people should definitely have decision-making authority for your program. So this isn't simply an educational opportunity. The goal is really to see you make changes by the end of the program to, based on what you learn. So maybe improving your selection process or rethinking your monitoring and evaluation model, et cetera. We want to see actual changes take place. And so that requires decision-making authority. The second team member, if you do have to come, will receive a 50% discount on participation, and ANDE members receive an additional reduced rate. So you'll see that information when it's time to apply for programs. All right, so your upcoming opportunities to join Scale 360. So our first application that's open, which is very exciting, is in India. And applications are open. They're due end of March. And that program will run from April to June. So we have some other upcoming locations, 3 in Africa, 2 in Asia, 1 in Latin America. We anticipate seeing this list grow quite a bit as we form new partnerships and think about offering in additional locations. So keep up with ANDE. I'll share at the end how you can do that to make sure you hear, announcements about new locations or when applications open. But this is at least what we are planning for the immediate term. All right, so let's give you a sneak peek at this upcoming program in India, just so you have a more tangible, look at what will take place in a program. So here's the tentative timeline. We have an application cycle. We'll announce the cohort, participants register and then participate in a virtual kickoff. And then they start having some combination of in-person and virtual sessions to walk in depth through each of those letters of the SCALE acronym. Some of them, are just a better fit for a virtual session. Some are better in person. But as you can see here, there's 5 actual sessions that participants will attend. As I said, this will range anywhere from 3 to 7, depending on what location you are participating in. And here's some of the coaches who were super excited to have imparting their knowledge to you during the program. So you'll see names in here like Village Capital, TechnoServe, Invest to Innovate, and our NSRCL, and many, Vilgro, many more that probably aren't listed here, Upaya. Wonderful ANDE members and friends who have just done an excellent job like identifying what works for their program and are generous enough to share that back with other participants. So we're very grateful to them, and you definitely want to hear what these folks have to say. So we hope for anyone who's joining from India that you will consider joining the program. Okay, so this is how you can apply for the India program. As you can see, there's a fee. It's discounted for ANDE members, and again, if you have more than one participant, it will be a 50% reduced rate. So other ways to get involved. If you are not a BDS program or you don't see your city listed or your country, here are the other ways to get involved. So you can contribute as a speaker or coach. Um, so if you are a BDS program who wants to actually impart your knowledge to your peers, feel like you've really nailed one of those scale lessons, we would love to talk to you about being a coach. There are extra benefits you get for serving in this capacity. But the most important one is just being able to support your peers and help the ecosystem. So definitely get in touch if you would like to participate as a coach. And to co-host a Scale 360 program. So especially for funders or organizations that are not BDS providers but want to support the ecosystem, we would love to partner with you and expand Scale to your region or city. So we would love to hear from you. I included Joy's email. She is the program manager for Scale 360 and is a wonderful resource. So please do reach out if you have any questions or would like to get involved. Okay, so stay up to date. This is the link to the ANDE newsletter where we will always include announcements about the upcoming programs. And then also the Scale 360 webpage will always be up to date as well. All right, thank you so much. We definitely have received some questions during this session and previous conversations, and so we will include an FAQ on the Scale 360 webpage. And as I mentioned, you can get in touch with Joy. We would love to hear from you and look forward to welcoming you to a Scale 360 program. Thank you so much.